Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Let's hope that I can get through this video before the whole neighborhood wakes up and the baby starts going crazy, which I hear she's doing. Yeah, so last week we talked about FOMO, the fear of missing out, and how hard it is to watch a raging bull market when you're holding a safe cash or feeling like you're missing out on the latest trends and events that might be happening around you. But today we're going to be looking at the uglier, possibly even more evil twin. It's a mental trap that hits retirees on a modest budget harder than probably anything. And it's what's called FOLE, F-O-L-E, the fear of losing everything. Now this is a word that's sometimes used in the investing circles, but it can be applied to many other aspects of life, which is what we're going to find out here. So when you suddenly lose your job and you step into retirement with less than $1 million, like I did, the ultimate safety net, that paycheck that you get every month, just disappears. And it's likely going to remain that way for the rest of my life. Here we go. I come out here and then all of a sudden every noise you hear just starts happening. And I can't stop it. Your brain completely stops thinking about wealth accumulation. You go into survival mode. You become hyper-vigilant and ultra-sensitive to just the slightest market volatility, and kind of sometimes hyperactive to life in general. If you're not careful, this can really turn into an irrational fear. It can freeze your planning, it can rob you of your sleep, and it convinces you that you're constantly standing on the absolute edge of losing everything you spent 30 years building. To show you how deep this can go, just as a non-financial example, for 30 years I lived abroad and in some of the most intense and dangerous places in the world. And I survived being held hostage in Somalia by a terrorist group for several months. In environments like that, hypervigilance mixed with the slight paranoia is what keeps you alive. Your brain just constantly scans for threats. You have to actually plan for the worst case scenarios and multiple layers of that in order to survive and know what you're going to do. And you remain in a high state of alert for long periods of time. That physical panic bled into my sleep for many years. I'd have awful nightmares of being captured and executed by masked monsters. And I'd wake up thrashing in bed. Even now, my wife will take an occasional accidental blow her way when I'm sleeping. Thank God she's never really been hurt, but frequently she's had to wake me up from a war zone going off in my mind before I did any more damage. So it doesn't fully go away. Here's the example of a relevant retirement fail. Your brain doesn't automatically shut that off. Just because I moved to a quiet, peaceful home in Laos, I spent my first few months here on high alert, suspicious of every unusual movement around my house, around the office, constantly monitoring outside, same way I survived when I lived in South Sudan, the country I had just left to come and work here. But health-wise, even more recently, I woke up in the middle of the night with a massive severe discomfort in my legs and moving all over my body. It was pretty scary. I've not felt anything like that before, and I couldn't sleep, and my mind immediately went in this tailspin. Is this the end already? I'm only 2 months into retirement. Am I having a heart attack already? Is my retirement over? And even probably worse than that, what is this gonna cost me out of pocket? But I finally ate some humble pie and I went to the doctor. You know what the diagnosis was? Uric acid buildup from lifting too intensively, simple dehydration, and lack of electrolytes in my body. All that mental terror for a glass of water and salt and a little more recovery time just fixed everything, and I've not had any issues since. So that was a pure, full FOLE response. My brain took a physical setback, dehydration, and mapped it into a fear that everything was going to be taken from me with just in a few months into my new life. It was like it's over before it even began. And what did I do wrong? I kind of felt like karma was hitting me. If you don't recognize when your survival instincts are hijacking your peace of mind, you'll find every minor bump in the road like a fatal cliff. Mark Twain is attributed to have said, "I've had a lot of worries in my life, most of which had never happened." That points perfectly to the tragedy of suffering through imaginary disasters. I've had plenty of difficult experiences in my life, but thank God not all of the ones that played out in my head actually came true. The real life ones were already bad enough. But this is exactly why the psychological survival mechanism is what completely wrecks your financial plan. Earlier this year, the market took a sharp, ugly dive. My portfolio dropped 14% in a matter of weeks. Now on paper, I understand market cycles much better. I knew exactly what a rational investor would do, trusted the long-term math, and I just sat tight. A little prayer doesn't hurt either. Historically, the market dip is the exact time when a bulk bidder puts capital into work. But since I'm out of the accumulation stage and investment stage, my job was simply to sit on my hands, wait and hope the correction doesn't last too long so I can keep building a cash reserve. But FOLE doesn't care about the history and charts. FOLE is what's happening in my mind. When you're living under a moderate retirement budget, under $1 million, watching a 14% drop doesn't feel like a standard market cycle. Feels like you're watching your whole savings evaporate into a black hole. Your mind exaggerates the whole thing. But what I did is I resisted the FOLE. I resisted fear of losing everything, and I just stayed calm, and the fear eventually passed. I simply delayed building up my cash reserves in bucket 1 and bucket 2. I clung on to the cash that I had, and I told myself the market is crashing, but it will recover. So don't lock in the losses. Just be patient and wait. If I let fear drive my emotions, I would have committed the classic investor mistake, which is cashing out at the bottom and locking in losses. Fortunately, by resisting the urge to go into all cash, I avoided a fast financial suicide and stayed invested right before the market pulled off one of the fastest turnarounds in history. The last couple months have been insane in the market. If I would have took my money out, I would have lost all of that gain. But the fail was that I let the anxiety steal my peace for weeks until that recovery actually happened. So once you go through these market hiccups several times, you start getting used to it. But it's a whole nother experience when you're retired and you have no likely possibility of earning an income. And then FOLE doesn't just show up in the finances. The fear of experiencing another loss or failure will quietly bleed your basic daily living, your activities, and the willingness to try something new. Past trauma and bad experiences have a way of whispering to you in retirement, cause you to live in a bubble, playing life safe, and to stop taking risks. And if you listen to that voice, you're just managing to slowly suffocate yourself. When I look back on my life, FOLE has tried to freeze me out of many decisions I ever made. 20 years ago, when I was terrified of putting my head underwater, if I had let that fear win, I would have missed out on 15 plus years, 250 dives, multiple liveaboard expeditions, diving across 10 different countries, and earning my dive master certification, and seeing the most amazing world underwater. When I was held hostage in Somalia and stood face to face with execution, my safe side and my family, especially my mom, told me to go back to America after I was rescued and play it safe. That's what my mom hoped for, but I chose not to let that trauma run my life. I went right back out and spent another 15 years until now working abroad in high-risk environments, helping millions of people and even learning to speak 3 more languages. When past relationships went sideways with some crazies and some con artists, it would have been easy to close off my mind and my heart forever to protect myself from another failed friendship or even relationship. But I chose to stay open, and because of that, I found my wife and even have a few meaning relationships since then. Even right now, in early retirement, FOLE is trying to play the exact same game on me. It tells me I'm too old to learn something new, but I pushed past that and I'm currently in school learning the Lao language. It tells me I'm crazy to leave the working world with less than $1 million and that I should aggressively be looking for another job. Otherwise, this is a one-way ticket to ruin, and like an evil angel whispering on my shoulder, I'm gonna end up broke. And it tells me I'm nothing without my business card, my old title, my position, my income, the power that I had, the authority I had. All of that is gone. Basically, FOLE is telling me that life is over and there's nothing new for me without my job. But I'm actively working through those mental battles to settle into a peaceful, simple life. My wife helps a lot with that because she is the most zen person I ever met. And it's not contrived. truly who she is. And I'm so appreciative to have someone like that in my life, especially right there. FOLE wants you to avoid new experiences because of old scars. It wants you to mistake self-preservation for happiness. So avoiding life out of fear of losing everything, it isn't playing safe. It's just a slow way to lose everything. It's a slow death of your soul and the remaining years. Here are some things that I'm trying to remind myself on a regular basis. My portfolio is not my identity. When you lose a job or a career, it's easy to treat your net worth as your entire scorecard for safety. Keep checking the bottom line. How much did the market move today? But fluctuating market balance doesn't dictate your personal security. You didn't retire too early to become a slave to market volatility. That's one. Two is you need to isolate the real threat. When panic hits, stop, breathe, and don't let a minor case of dehydration convince you you're dying. Don't fear the reaper. Just go see the doctor, get checked out. Put your mind at ease. The third one is true wealth is a peace of mind. There's no point in successfully escaping the grind and retire if you're just going to build up a mental prison of anxiety and rot on your own porch. The ultimate goal of early retirement, it isn't accumulation anymore. It's just about having enough. Just abide like the dude. If you know the movie reference I'm talking to, write that down in the comments below. Abide like the dude. And the fourth one is just don't let past experiences dictate your future. If you do, you're going to miss out on some of the best times, the best places, best travel, and some of the best people you'll ever meet. So if you're still out there grinding away, trying to build a real world retirement plan without the fake filters, and you want to watch someone actually live through this in real time, make sure to hit the subscribe button, thumbs up, and let me know in the comment. Have you ever let the fear of a market drop cause you to make bad decisions? Have you ever let FOLE keep you from trying something new or going someplace new? Just remember to live life like you own it. Just do it. Just do it. So everybody, thanks for joining me. This is Troyce at Winding Down Chronicles, and that's this week's retirement fail, so you don't have to make it. See you in the next one.